Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lonely Podcast Weekly Recommendations, where I recommend the podcast, movie, and book of the week. So, let's start. The podcast of the week is John Danaher on the Lex Fridman Podcast. There are 3 episodes, and I highly recommend to watch all of them. John Danaher is one of the best jiu-jitsu trainers that ever lived. But he's so much more than that. This is a person who had a Ph.D. in philosophy from Columbia University and decided to stop and dedicate his life to Jiu-Jitsu. The interesting thing about Danaher that I've observed is that this is a person who embodies what it means to be excellent at your craft. Danaher doesn't just explain Jiu-Jitsu in a way that someone like me who doesn't have much experience can follow through his explanation. He uses Jiu-Jitsu as a vehicle for excellence in life. Even if you've never trained Jiu-Jitsu and have zero experience in grappling, you would still appreciate it. So if you want to learn about what does it mean to be excellent at your craft, listen to this conversation with John Danaher on the Lex Fridman Podcast. Movie of the week, The Arctic. So The Arctic is an Icelandic American movie that tells the story of a pilot that crashed his plane and is struggling to survive. So this movie is quiet, very quiet, which makes sense given the fact that if you have a person stranded on a desert island, you wouldn't expect it to have too many dialogues. Even though...
We okay? Okay.
But here's what I really like about this movie. This movie talks basically about the human spirit and about the importance of staying positive and doing things for people other than yourself. In a way, this movie really reminded me of The Life of Pi, which at first glimpse has nothing to do with the Arctic, but the common denominator is the tiger. If you recall, in The Life of Pi, you have a small boy stuck on a lifeboat with a tiger. And at the beginning of the movie, the viewer probably views the tiger as a huge hassle for this boy, being stuck on a small lifeboat, trying to navigate his way around not just surviving, but also surviving with a tiger. He was forced to adopt to this wild animal, train it, and eventually even care for it. And I would argue that if anything, the tiger probably helped Pi survive more than anything. Spoiler alert, there are no tigers in the Arctic, but there are metaphoric tigers and other factors that come into play. And once again, it's the inner voice of the person wishing to survive that is really remarkable and interesting to see in this movie.
It's okay.
So if you're in a mood for a quiet, pretty slow, but fairly tense movie, I highly recommend The Arctic. Book of the Week, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl is a Holocaust survivor who survived 4 years in 4 different concentration camps, including Auschwitz, losing practically his entire family, his parents, his siblings, and his wife. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl explains how he survived. Frankl developed a theory that is called logotherapy. Logo comes from the Greek word logos, which is reason or meaning. Frankl explains that without meaning, a man cannot survive in easy or tough circumstances. Meaning is what makes a man continue to live and move forward, even after losing all of his loved ones. Frankl knew he had to move forward because he had to finish his thesis. Frankl doesn't shy away from existentialism, which views life as just full of suffering. He embraces that concept, but adds that meaning is the cure for a life full of suffering. According to Frankl, it is not just stopping to view the sunset when you are Sisyphus carrying a giant rock up the hill. It is also finding meaning in your life that will push you forward through the misery. There is no better person in the world to talk about the importance of meaning than Viktor Frankl. And his very short book is extremely insightful and, dare I say, meaningful. It is definitely worth your time. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Okay, thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you all next week.